Ari Engel, known as Bodog Ari online, has been the poster boy for the online poker world pretty much from the get-go. As his name suggests, he started playing poker on Bodog and quickly built up his bankroll from there to become the online poker powerhouse that he is now. He has more than $1 million in winnings online and is currently in the top 50 in the online Player of the Year race on Card Player. Ari recently pocketed more than $26,000 for taking second place in a $100 with Rebuys tournament on PokerStars. Ari is on the phone with us today to tell us how he got his start and to talk strategy. Alright, how you doing, Ari?
I am doing well today. How about you?
Good, I'm doing very good. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the obligatory question then, what got you started playing poker and what stakes did you start at?
I actually didn't. I guess I got my start in poker by watching my roommate in college, and I just sat and watched him play. He used to play a lot for a few months, probably about 3 months. I just sat there and watched, and I didn't play any hands. And then he started letting me use his account and playing, like very small sit and goes. I didn't have any money to my name. I was in college. I was in debt. Like over $100,000 already at the time, just for paying for college. So I didn't really want to gamble or anything, but he let me use his account, and I started doing all right at these low stakes and not really making too much money, but I enjoyed it and I played a bunch. And then eventually opened up my own account. And again, just playing real low, not really making too much. And I graduated from college, and I got a real job, so I kind of gave up on online poker. Like, it wasn't, I'd maybe make, like $50 a month or something,
Mm-hmm.
But I was, I thought I was pretty decent, beating the $5 sit and goes, but, yeah, so I stopped playing, and I was just playing a home game once a week. For a $40 home game with my friends that were still in college, and at one of those games they told me about Bodog and how the two of them had both made $1,000 in the last few days playing there, so got really excited, and they're like, yeah, it's a very good site, it's easy to make money on, and a bunch of weak players, and they really cater to sports bettors.
Mm-hmm. So
it is kind of like a weaker player base than a lot of the other sites that are just exclusively poker sites.
Right.
So after work, at the end of the week, I decided to deposit, and I just all of a sudden, I don't know really like what caused me, but I just started playing real psycho-aggressive. Like the guy that had taught me to play, we were like kind of playing like real tight. And he had, described the style about how people play real aggressive. I don't know what caused me to start playing that way that day, but just all of a sudden, really, I just started playing really psycho-aggressive. And
did it work right from the start?
I'm sorry?
And did it work right from the start?
Yeah, I made $10,000 from that 150 that weekend. And I, barely wanted to go to work on Monday, but I did. And I left early, and then I made $5,000 that day. So within the next few days, I told them I was going to quit, because I was making $26,000 a year at that job.
What was the job?
$500 a week. It was a startup computer company. I would just doing mind-numbing work for them. No, it wasn't bad. It was all right, but no thought,
Yeah.
So yes, I figured, I'm single, I have no responsibility. I wasn't dead a lot for college, but I wasn't, from that $500 a week job, obviously I'm not going to be paying it off too much anyway. So, so I decided, with my parents' approval, but, I decided after a little bit, go for it. If there's ever a time to take the risk, it's now. And, it just, those games were particularly easy, so I was lucky.
Well, as soon as you made those big scores, did you move up in stakes right away?
No, like when I deposited 150, I kind of don't remember so well, but I think I played 1-2 no limit for like half a day or something. But then very quickly I started playing 2-4 no limit, and I just stayed at 2-4 no limit for like a year. And I played 2 tables at a time, and I just played maybe I don't know, just like all the time. I can't give you a reasonable amount of hours a day or a week, but whenever I was awake, really, I would just play 2 tables at a time as much as I can, and I barely had a losing week. It was sick. I mean, the players were much weaker than they are nowadays.
Well, what stakes do you play now, and how many tables at once?
I play now maybe an average of 3, but 4 on Sundays.
And how many tables at once usually?
An average of 3, and I'd say that I go up to 4 on Sundays.
And do you what stakes? What cash games do you play? Do you even play cash games really that much anymore?
After a year of maybe like November to June, I'm playing the 2-4, and Bodog calls me up and says, do you want to go to the World Series that year, 2005, I think it was. Like, they wanted to, I've been doing real well on the side. And they just offered to send me, and I started getting into tournaments after that, even though I did real poorly because I never played a tournament. But I got into tournaments, and then at the time I was like, it's hard to play tournaments and cash at the same time, so I started playing more tournaments. And then eventually got to the point where, I don't know, I don't know if I lost my skills or just like over time, like I never really played cash as much, and then when I went to play cash, I was in like a tournament mode, and it took me a while to adjust and stuff, and then when I realized there was a necessary adjustment, I was not, I didn't feel comfortable, I didn't feel confident in any decent-sized games, so I didn't really play, and occasionally I'll still play like a little bit in the lower end Bodog, and I do alright, but I don't think I'm really that good.
Well, so how many tournaments do you play a week now?
I'd say maybe 60.
60? What is your favorite site to play on right now?
What's my favorite site? Well, I still find that like Bodog is the best value relative to buy-in, meaning like a little bit weaker players relative to the buy-in, and a lot of times they have overlays in the tournaments. So I like to play there a lot, but I like to play maybe. I guess my ideal size buy-in tournament would be $150 right now, internet-wise, and there aren't too many of those size on Bodog. So I play maybe half of my total tournaments on Stars, and then a quarter on Bodog and a quarter on Full Tilt.
Gotcha. For this year's World Series, you came out to Vegas. You actually moved out to Vegas into a house with some other online pros. GB 2005, there was Gboro 780, and Greybone. What was it like living with those guys?
Yeah, it was sweet. I did the same thing last year with a couple of other internet players, and it worked out really well. We all improved our games and talked, and it just turned out both years that I got along with them all, and they were all good people. So I barely knew any of them before we got into it. So it was kind of a good situation that it all worked out, and we learned a lot and had a good time. So it was great.
Well, you came out to Vegas specifically for the series, and then you only played in, I think, 4 events, right?
Yeah.
Why so few?
Well, I don't play poker on Saturdays because I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Gotcha.
So that excludes a lot of the events. Let's say it starts on Friday, day 2 will be on Saturdays. I won't play in that.
Gotcha.
But even so, that I kind of was lazy throughout the summer, and on a number of days where I was like thinking, maybe I should go play, I would just sign up for a tournament online and get stuck there, and or whatever. And you're not stuck, but I just like stay on my computer too much and just play online too much. But it's all good, poker's not going away. Just I just play what I'm comfortable with at the time and just go with the flow.
Cool. Did anything interesting happen to you during the series?
During the World Series?
Yeah.
Not really. I can not that will interest your listenership or viewership, whatever.
Well, what about with just the three housemates of yours? Anything interesting happen at the house itself?
We just all kind of dominated online poker and made a bunch of money and, succeeded in our goal.
You recently moved to Vegas permanently for poker. Does that mean that you're going to be popping up all over the place in live tournaments then soon?
That would be a reasonable assumption, but given my past history, but yeah, look, I definitely, I got a backer already for live tournaments maybe 6 months ago, so I could play in a lot of the bigger buy-ins that I otherwise wouldn't have. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely, over time, I have been playing more and more. I'm 23. I've been eligible to be playing live for a while now already. Kind of old for the online circuit. I plan on playing more live. Hopefully I can take something down there.
Well, a lot of you online pros are playing in these really, really stacked fields, in events like the 1K buy-in events or the $100 and $200 rebuys. Mm-hmm. What's the upside to playing in those events? It seems like you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself a rough ride to the final table, and you're paying a lot of money to do so.
Yeah, well, you asked the wrong person, because I kind of try and avoid those because because of that exact reason. I do play them still a decent amount, but I realize that they're not, as inherently plus EV. But let's say you view yourself as the top online player, Mm-hmm. Let's say whatever Imperium. When he enters in, he just wants to play whatever the biggest buy-in is, even if his ROI is a little lower in it compared to the lower buy-ins. If it's a $1,000 tournament and he could have 100% ROI, he's making a $1,000 tournament. He's making $1,000 a tournament. So even if he has a 200% ROI at a $100 tournament, which is double as good, he's going to be making less money. Well, so that's their incentive. It's a bigger buy-in. I guess some people do it for the challenge and that, but that doesn't seem too smart to me. And there are better challenges around. It's not like if you can win the 100 rebuy, no one's gonna. That's not that amazing. It's still, I guess people that want to think they're the best in the world need to be able to beat the cash games.
Well, what's your favorite tournament to play online then? What's the one you look for?
I guess the Stars Million, because so many people. I've never done well in it, but there's so many people in it, and for $200 you can have a life-changing score, which is kind of sick, and not just even first. A bunch of the top places there make over six figures. Depending on the week and stuff. But yeah, I just like the big field tournaments where, like you're saying, exactly the opposite of the 100 rebuy, where there are a bunch of weak players and you get more value, and kind of I enjoy playing against bad players. I don't really enjoy playing against good players too much. It's not it's not a fun game. I gotta kind of tighten up too much, and it doesn't feel good.
Well, who's your least favorite opponent to play against then online?
None really stick out. I just don't like playing those equally, or not. Like I said, none stick out. But I don't like playing against good players. So I guess anyone that plays well is kind of. I'm like, I'd rather not see them at my tables, and rather than never play against anyone good.
Well, is there a certain play?
And don't worry about the challenge. What's that?
Is there a certain play style that you're not as good at combating? Are you really bad against loose aggressive players? or you bat against particularly rocky type players?
I mean, I guess I'm on the loose side of the spectrum, so I hope that, like, you know, my thinking about loose players and what they're thinking and stuff, you know, is all right, because I actually play that myself that way. So I feel like I got a decent handle on them. And then, I mean, I guess, like, a really good tie player is the hardest to deal with, because for them, like, they can pull off moves, and you just don't know, because in general they're tight, but they have the capacity to. So I mean, yeah, you know, that's the ideal image, I guess, is have that loose image and then just be able to pull off moves, you know, here and there whenever you find some good spots. I think that's what a lot of the, you know, like top players are. They're not like, I mean, I don't know, actually, Imperium's actually pretty psycho, so maybe strike that from the record, but I mean, there's definitely, you know, like, aggression is what wins, but you need to be able to temper it and control it. So, I don't know, you know, there's always that balance. But there isn't, like, one particularly. If they're really good and difficult to, that's what makes good players. They're just difficult to play against and put you in spots and don't make your decision. You know, like let's say a guy has never played in a tournament before. I'm not really going to even have to think much to play against them, because I've seen, you know, situations, the normal situations routinely, I kind of know what they're thinking. But, you know, some of these people are thinking at high, not some, a bunch are thinking at high levels than me, and then then it makes it hard to play against them.
But from the sounds of it, then, you prefer to play freeze-out tournaments more than rebuys? Is that true?
Well, the nice thing about rebuys are that, like, any tournament where it's a deeper structure, or, you know, the average stack is higher relative to the blinds, it makes a higher ROI potential. So the more deeper stacked you are, like, you have more freedom to wait for good spots, or to be creative, or whatever, just to play poker. And that's what rebuys do. They just add extra degrees of, you know, to the average stack relative to the bind. So I do like them also. You know, the higher rebuys that are just populated with good players, that's a different story. But you know, some of the lower rebuys, I play them, you know, times. I still play, you know, a bunch of it. I just don't think they're as good values.
Well, how do you in particular play rebuys during the rebuy stage?
I switch on and off. I've gone through, you know, being real psycho aggro, you know, averaging 10+ binds every time, you know, averaging a high number of rebuys and pushing all in a lot at the beginning, to kind of almost playing like a freeze-out, a lot depends on the table mates. I mean, you can't force the issue. If you're the only one forcing the issue, from my experience, I've done that. But it doesn't seem to be profitable. You just go with how other people are playing, and I would love to be able to play loose though in all of them ideally. But if no one else is, then barring, you know, like very exceptional circumstances, you know, that I think I'm way better than everyone else, and it's a huge field in my equity. But in general, I'll play, you know, not crazy.
Okay. You posted on your blog recently that you used a software program called Poker Tracker, which basically is a legal way to store and display data from your hands that you play online. You said that you're baffled that the software is legal, and you believe that anyone who doesn't use it loses some kind of advantage. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it just it shows, like, instead of, okay, well, let's say someone's playing, you know, multiple tables. You can't possibly, as far as I'm concerned, you can't possibly keep track exactly of how each player individually on all the tables are playing. And this just accumulates all the stats, how many times, and it just shows you right on the front of your screen. Like right now I'm playing, and I have in front of one of the players' names, there are 4 numbers. And the top left number says how often do they voluntarily put money into the pot when they're not in the pot. So what percentage of hands are they, you know, just putting money? And then like just a bunch of different stats that very relevant to making decisions. And I don't know, a lot of my decisions, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of my decisions are stack size based, and having the stack size right in front, and then their numbers, how often are they raising pre-flops, like what percentage is thick, it's just, it makes the decision making much easier.
Well, and you said it baffles you that it's legal too. What do you mean by that?
Well, it doesn't seem like that's like, I mean, the game of poker, you're just getting too much information at your hands, and it's okay. Like, I'll put it to you this way: I was just watching ESPN, and how do they advertise poker? It's like everyone comes with an equal playing field. The young, the old. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be anything. You just come and you're at an equal playing field, and anyone can win on any given day, and all that stuff. And that's what. And poker needs to be like that in order for the game to continue, whatever they call it, ecosystem of poker. And this basically messes all that up by allowing the good players who are anyway making money. It's the same as multi-account. They're anyway making money. It just gives them an unfair advantage that everyone else does not have. This just happens to be that the poker sites allow it. From my point of view, I don't know, there's a big difference between doing something that's allowed and not, but it's very similar.
Well, and I had done an interview with Kevin Below Above Saul, and I had actually asked him this question, whether or not he used, because he plays a ton of tables at the same time, and I asked him if he used any of this kind of software, and he said he doesn't because he thinks it takes away from the purity of the game. So you, on one hand, it sounds like you agree with him on that, but also you think you'd be stupid not to use it because it is allowed. Is that right? Exactly. I would very happily give it up if everyone gave it up, but I'm not going to voluntarily, do that. What's something that you've noticed about yourself recently, poker-wise, that you might need to patch up to improve your game? I can't list one thing per se, but every day I notice stuff that are bad in my game. So I got a long way to go. I'm happy I'm still noticing it, because most people, they have it, and it's just a question of whether you notice it or not. Well, what kind of things have you noticed recently then, like in your last play session, for instance? I hover between being too aggressive at different times and being too passive at other times, and just just new situations come up with different stack sizes against different players, and I think just the overall game has gotten more difficult, and there are more better players around, and the better players play at a much higher level than the better players, or at least people I thought used to be better players back in the day used to play. So it makes the game, it's kind of interesting because, you obviously you don't get bored and all that. Not that I'd happily give up the interesting part for extra, for making the games easier, but it's basically, I don't know where I was going with that. Well, you say that the poker community nowadays is overpopulated with some really good players, which a lot of people would tend to agree with. I don't know, overpopulated. They're just a lot more than there used to be, and they're better. There's still plenty of money to be made, and it's just it used to be. And I guess no one was that good, and we've been able to gain a lot of knowledge by the hard work put in by the last generation. But there just wasn't this kind of information out there back then, and the games were just very much easier. Well, would you agree that better poker players might actually be easier to bluff than poor poker players, because poor poker players would overvalue their hands and not be convinced to get out of a hand? It depends what kind of players. There are a lot of, it depends what kind of tournament. Your general, stereotype of the amateur player being a calling station is not accurate at all at the big buy-in tournament. In the big buy-in tournaments, your amateur plays like a very, very tight player that's scared money and doesn't want to get out. So, whereas obviously in the home game, that's a different story. You can't be asking them to make any folds, nor should they be.
So it really depends on where your amateur playing is playing. I mean, I bluff an amateur player about a ratio of maybe 8 or 9 to 1 to the pros, just because the amateurs I play against, I'm playing deep in a tournament where the money means a lot to them. So let's say they're in a $50 tournament, and now the difference between 6th and 5th place is maybe $500 or whatever it is, or $800. So a lot to a guy that's playing a $50 tournament. There's differences, and the next guy, it's more and more each difference. So it means a lot to the amateur player, and it's kind of like basic tournament strategy is exploiting those amateur players.
Mm-hmm. Well, how often do you think how often would you say overall you tend to bluff?
I'm constantly switching that up and stuff, and I tend to play relatively tight at the beginning of tournaments, so not too often, and then as the tournament goes deeper, I loosen up. But I'm still, the bottom line is you're winning for spots, and just how many spots open up, and I tend to think I'm good at finding spots where people are putting in money without the goods. See, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is I'm not playing my cards. I'm trying to find where they're putting in money without cards. So that, and then I re-raise with that regards to what I'm holding. So so a lot depends on how loose they're playing at that table.
Right.
Well, the tighter they're playing, the less opportunities I have, or whatever. I win smaller pots, but not re-raising as much. I play pretty loose. I can't give a 50%.
Cool. Well, that's all I got for you. Thanks for joining us today, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's all for this week. Thank you for watching the Online Zone on Card Player TV.